This is the education transition session. We have a number of guests here who are going to share their expertise and life experience with us. Claire Mahony covers kindergarten to year 12. She's a specialised teacher in vision impairment in the school transition program, especially notably into kindy, into years 6 to 7, into years 10, 11, and exit from school. She does braille support and it's a COVID year, so we've got to talk about how we stay sane. She loves paddleboarding and spending time with adult kids. Natalie Shearer is here. She's focused on kindergarten. She's assistant principal in vision impairment. She's for the DET. She's got 2 young kids and she enjoys lots of family time and especially focuses on the preschool to school transition. Bronwyn Flanagan is specialised on after school. So support teacher of the transition at the end of that school period. She's part of the DET post-school support team to maximise support pathways. So she works with students and families, especially looking at year 9 through to year 12, planning what happens after school. She's got 2 kids and she also gets involved in Duke of Edinburgh as well, I believe. And if you think about how everyone links together, Claire, for example, tends to carry the kids up to a certain stage and then Bronwyn picks them up from there. So these are all people who kind of transition kids into each other. And these services don't stand as isolated walled gardens. Everybody interacts, everyone hands everyone through. Audrey is the National Disability Coordination Officer for Community Support Services and COVID insanity. She's got a motorbike, which she likes to ride at least monthly to maintain her mental health. It's her big red baby. Have I missed anybody? Have my notes failed me? We've covered everyone? Okay, fantastic. Over to you guys. We'll let you all present and then we'll get into some questions at the end. Reminder to everyone at home, write your questions into that Q&A panel. I promise I'll get to them.
Okay, thanks, Michael. So I'm going to kick things off. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. Hoping everyone can see that. So we'd like to welcome you to this panel on transition today. We're really excited to talk to you all about the key times and these key transition times in your child's or the student's life. We understand and we acknowledge that sometimes at these times can be quite anxious times or nervous times for families and for the students themselves, but they're also really, really exciting times. So we're looking forward to sharing with you today how we support students in these and the best steps to success in these transition times. Okay, so we've identified some of the key transition years. So probably one of the biggest ones is when the little people go to school, and that's preschool to kindergarten. We're also going to touch on infancy.
Natalie, can you move slightly closer to the microphone? Just a little bit.
Sorry, is that better?
Yep.
Can you hear me now properly?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Infants to primary, so year 2 to year 3, and then year 6 to year 7, another big one from primary school to high school, and then year 10 to 11, as we tend to get up to that sort of pointier end with subject selection and the HSC, and then year 12 to high school, which is a super exciting time. So we're going to start by touching on the vision support role. So any student that meets guidelines and has a vision impairment will receive special vision support.
I think you have net issues. It's a little bit bubbly underwater.
Perhaps I can stop my video and we'll see if that makes a difference.
Good idea.
Stop video. Okay, I've stopped my video. Is that sounding any better? Interrupt me if I'm not sounding great. Apologies. Okay, so the vision support role. So a vision teacher can be called a specialist or an itinerant support teacher vision. It's the same role, it's just different names for different. So there are really 2 parts to our role. The first part is to support the school ensure that the student can have access to the Australian curriculum. And that might be providing the students work in Braille or providing the students work electronically. And the second part to our role is to teach the students the skills they need because of their vision impairment. And that might be how to use their technologies, such as how to use a magnifier or an audio or a screen reader. We touch on orientation mobility, so navigating the school safely or teaching some training skills. Could be advocacy skills and awareness.
Oh, I think your sound is drifting out a little.
Mike, I'm just wondering, Claire, do you still have the slides? I'm just wondering if you shared the slides and then Natalie spoke, it might help with the internet maybe.
Okay, it'll just take me a minute to...
Should we try that?
Up. Okay.
Here we go.
So if you stop sharing, Natalie.
The joys of technology, everybody.
Coming back.
You've been remarkably lucky so far. Yep, looking good.
Okay.
Okay, Natalie, over to you, and just make sure the microphone's close to your mouth.
It should be. Am I sounding okay now?
Yep, you're sounding clear.
All right, let's hope it works. Okay, so we're just touching on the second part of our role, which was to teach the student the skills they need as a result of their vision impairment. And we were touching on technology, how to use their technology, orientation mobility, advocacy skills, vision awareness, and really the core value of our work is to provide the structures and support to ensure equal opportunity and improved outcomes for students with vision impairment. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to start with preschool to kindergarten. So a very, very exciting time when the little people get to come and begin their formal education. So we are going to briefly speak about prior to school and then commencement at school. Next slide, please. Okay, so prior to school. So parents will complete the enrolment forms and usually provide a vision report to the school. And then from that, schools will take appropriate action to contact the vision support provider. Now, in the independent system, that they will access a vision teacher through RADVC, and in the public system, they'll access a vision teacher through the Department of Education.
You're just drifting away from sound again.
Oh, wow, I'm like really close.
Now you're perfect. Now you're good.
Okay. All right, so then we'll also do site risk assessments of an outdoor and an indoor environment. So that might be looking at adjustments to the physical environment, such as adding tactile markers or adding some yellow paint to identify poles or steps or anything that needs to be done. There'll be possible observation visits to the preschool or the early learning setting where the student is attending, and possible school site visits to familiarise the student playground or classroom prior to school starting. Next slide, please. Okay, at school. So vision support commences. So it's a priority really for any of our priorities to support kindergarten students or any students in major transition years in those very first few days, the first day or first couple of days. So depending on student need, the student will always receive a visit from the vision teacher. The vision teacher will also provide professional learning for the whole school staff, and they'll look at doing things, talking to the whole school staff about the student themselves, their vision impairment, their vision needs, have a talk about what it might be like to have a vision impairment, and that not everybody sees the same thing with a vision impairment, and that there are lots of different components that make that up. Next slide, please.
Oh, I think we just lost you for the last couple of seconds.
Wow.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you're good now.
Okay, so at school, the specialist vision teacher will make recommendations and adjustments based on individual student need to ensure curriculum access and participation. So the vision teacher will look at things and make recommendations based on the learning media, which is braille or large print or electronic. They'll discuss lighting, appropriate lighting, ways to reduce glare, the best seating position, so perhaps at the desk or on the floor for the student, and the classroom setup and organisation, such as where is the best place for the student to place their bag, or where's the best place for the lunch boxes to go, and then also technology. Next slide, please. Okay, so also at school, the teacher will work in class and then will also withdraw the student for small amounts of time to work on the skills that the student needs. And this is also known as the expanded core curriculum. So the vision teacher will teach skills such as for assistive technology. Now for a kindy student, that might be something, for example, on the iPad to learn how to pinch and zoom. It may be how to activate the magnifier to log on to a PC. It would be touching on compensatory skills such as braille and organisation, or sensory efficiency skills, which are...
Just drifting out again.
I don't know if somebody else has their sound on, because I'm hearing a lot as well.
Now you're good.
Okay. Sensory efficiency skills such as fine and gross motor, and orientation and mobility, so moving around the school, learning cane skills, learning guided travel techniques, self-determination skills, so we really want the student to know about their vision impairment, of course at an age-appropriate level, and how to speak up for what they need in the classroom. So that might be as simple as discussing the tools that they need to help them in the classroom. Social interactions with friendships and awareness of body language, and recreational leisure, always encouraging them to explore new activities, as there's so many new activities offered at school. And then independent living skills. And that could be such things as hand washing, concentrating on zippers or buttons or clips. So that's a bit of a brief overview. I'm going to hand over to Claire now, who hopefully has better sound, my apologies, who is going to discuss infants to primary. So year 2 and year 3.
Hello. So after your child has successfully finished kindergarten, there will be a next transition to year 1. So really school is a series of just a lot of smaller transitions with a few big ones thrown in. So I just thought I'd go through what happens at the end of each year. So going from kindergarten to year 1, your child will transition to the next year group. There'll be a handover that involves the class teacher, the vision teacher, and sometimes learning support teacher. So the new teacher will know the adjustments that your child needs before they start the school year, and any other important information. And the classroom environment will be modified if need be, if they're moving to a new classroom. And all the considerations that we consider for kindergarten will just be readdressed for year 1, and then year 2, and then we've got the next transition, which is a slightly bigger one, year 2 to year 3. Part of our vision teacher, our role is really to make sure that our students are ready for what skills they need when they've transitioned to the next year group. So we're always pre-teaching the skills that they need so that they can keep up with their class and they're just ready to go in year 3. So I thought I might just give a bit of an example here. I use an app. Most of my students are low vision at the moment, and they use an app called Notability on the iPad Pro. But we use it from K to 12. So in kindergarten, we'll start teaching how to annotate in the app and what size, how to use the Apple Pencil, how to magnify text, how to maybe fill out simple worksheets, how to change the colours, what size of the line, what thickness of the line is most suitable for them, and just practice that magnifying. But then when they're in year 1, they might have some textbooks that are kind of simpler textbooks, and so we put those in the app, and then they start answering the questions in the textbooks. So eventually, over the years, they'll learn to navigate the textbooks, maybe email the pages to the teachers for marking. They'll learn how to file within Notability, and we just learn the application as we go along. But just for going to year 2 to year 3 as an example, when the teacher says, open your maths textbook, turn to page 47, my student, I want to be ready to open the maths textbook and open to page 47 and be starting to do the activity in the textbook along with all the other students. And that keeps going on to year 12, where they, will have much more complicated things to do in notability, like calculus or something like that. So year 2 to year 3, it's a smaller transition. All the things are met: handovers, checking the new classroom, the primary playground. If they change playgrounds, they'll be have some orientation and mobility around equipment, new changing rules, maybe organisation, things like that. All of those things the student will be ready for, because we'll work those through. So year 6 to year 7 is usually the next really big transition. The same principles follow as for kindergarten. Hang on, I'm not, sorry, I'm operating my own slides and I just forgot for a moment. There'll be a transition program for year 6 to 7, which all students will be involved with. So the students will go with the orientation with the cohort, but probably have some additional visits to the school as well. And sometimes with their orientation mobility trainer, who often in the holidays before starting year 7, they'll get to good walk all over the school, get to know where everything is, the equipment, bathrooms, science classrooms, having as good an understanding as they can of the environment before it gets crowded with the other students when they all start. Of course, they all get a little bit lost anyhow in the first few days, whether you've got a vision impairment or not, but it'll be, the students will be as ready for it as they can be. There'll be an environmental assessment, site assessment for the secondary school to make sure that everything's accessible for the students and it's safe. Considerations given to the choice of classrooms and lockers. Preparation for what technology the school uses. Are they a Mac school, or are they a Windows school, or they use iPads? All of those things will be considered before year 7 in preparation. All the year 7 teachers and the whole school staff will be serviced and prepared, probably in different sessions as to the adjustments that your child needs. Preparation considerations given to sport and different rules around sports uniforms and things like that, which they can be quite different from primary school. Considerations given to organisation as well. That's a very big thing for year 7. And also just where all the lockers are, where the classroom, what the best classroom will be, most efficient way to move around the school, things like that will all be worked out before year 7. Secondary schooling can present different challenges along the way, and we just meet and problem solve the challenges. And I really liked what Darren said, just find a way, and that's what we do. Just another little example is one of my students suddenly decided to do dragon boat racing as school sport, but we just found the way, how to get there. We looked across the travel training, safety around the harbour foreshores, how to get in and out of boats, had some help from guide dogs to help us with orientation mobility, and we found the way, and it was a fantastic term of dragon boat racing. So the next big, there will be handovers every year, but up to year 10 and 11 is the next bigger, not huge transition, but bigger. A few more considerations to be thought of. Subject selection, and make sure that the classrooms are all set up for this, your student. TVET courses, if they're going out to TAFE to do practical courses, or there'll be travel training involved in that. All of those things will be considered and worked out how we get to TAFE, and the TAFE is very good with preparation for vision impaired students too. So we'd use transition teachers and external agencies to help us out there too. Disability provisions become more formal in years 10 and 11, and the applications will be going into NESA, but that's all part of transitioning too. You've been using provisions before year 11, but they do become more formal. We'd be looking at possible work placement. Technology, do we need more technology skills for years 11, 12, because the demands of the curriculum are going up, and they have to access a lot more text. So all of those will be considered. Effective study habits and organisation, And of course, travel training. If you haven't done any travel training by the time you're getting to year 11, that's certainly the time to be starting it. All schools will manage transitions, but it might be a little bit be resourced differently, especially when different between regional and city schools. But there will be a team that will be a transition team with your child. The people who might be part of your transition team are learning support staff, careers counsellors, school counsellors or transition teachers. So now I'm going to hand over to Bron and Audrey, who are very experienced in post-school options.
Thanks for that, Claire. There's a few questions that have come through, and I don't know if you actually, there was one that might be relevant straight up, Claire. With the restrictions due to COVID, what suggestions to facilitate year 6 to 7 transitions can the site visits go ahead? From my point of view, prior to year 7, anything to do with environmental adjustments going into high school will be put in place. And from what I know at the moment, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that it's up to school principals around transition process. I do not believe they're happening at the moment, but everything, we haven't really, you know, things are changing on a regular basis on that. So I don't think we have the knowledge yet to be able to say yay or nay on that, but I believe it'll come under principal's discretion if there was a reason a young person may need to actually visit the site earlier on with a vision need, and look, that would be taken into account and spoken directly with the principal. Has anyone got anything to add to that question at all? No? Yeah. Okay, just wanted to cover that for us. Okay, so year 12 to post school, if you want to move our page along, please, Claire. My role is support teacher transition, so I'm working.
Do you want that page?
That's
Sorry.
it, beautiful.
Thank
My
you.
role is support teacher transition, so I'm working with young people while they're at high school and teaching them skills just like you're pre-taught, everything going through school with your itinerants, helping support that process post-school. So if we need that little bit of wraparound support while we're at school, making sure that from a school's point of view, I'm connecting you to who can give those little bits of wraparound supports post-school. One of the most important things I think young people with disabilities of any sort of disability have is learning at that age group when you're looking at leaving school, is learning to advocate for yourself and as part of where you're going when you leave school and what your needs are going to be for when you leave school. So my role is to talk to young people and create evidence that may go towards the NDIS or other agencies around what levels of support you may need when you leave school. This sort of chart, the arrows you've got here on the are the general directions that I work with to get people when leaving school what their goals might be. But even though they're discrete arrows, those arrows do cross over, and we might go to becoming work ready and then going towards finding a study through an RTO later on. Like, they're not actually discrete arrows like they look like they are here. So that's what my role is. My role is to find out what's going on in my local community and bringing that information into the schools to support people with disabilities when they leave and around that employment goals. One of the events that has happened recently in respect to school leavers with disability was our big regional rural future choices expo for students with disability. Vision Australia have got a table at that expo. I will put up into the chat the actual web page, and you can get on there and download some great resources across a whole lot of different avenues. The NDIA are on there, and there's lots of universities, RTOs. It's a minefield. It's fantastic. We've been really lucky with the amount of support we've had to get that happening. You've also got that as part of your resource pack. So yeah, my role is also in preparing young people for leaving school, talking about not just the subject selections, but what sort of individual adjustments are needed for you to reach curriculum while you're at school, and making sure you learn how to advocate and having evidence for that for when you go off, if you are going on to further study or if you need help with employment goals. And yeah, and working with those key stakeholders. So yeah, those key stakeholders and those different companies with their different funding lines that I work so closely with. Audrey's going to speak about those. We work very closely in her role and with my role at a school level. In respect to my role, it is all about what the young person's goals are. I work with your itinerants to find out what's needed, and it's a collaborative process. And I'm very, very lucky to have such a wonderful job talking about where you're going when you leave school. It's a really exciting time, and it's great that we have that now wraparound support as part of that process, working towards where we're going when we're leaving school. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Claire. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, forward would be good. Thanks. Fantastic. So now we're leaving school, and these are some of the options you might like to look at once you've left school. So a registered training organisation, or an RTO, are providers and assessors of nationally recognised training that have been registered by the Australian Skills and Quality Authority. And only RTOs can issue nationally recognised qualifications. And there's about 5,000 RTOs that currently exist within Australia. RTOs offer accredited VET qualifications. And when choosing to study with an RTO in Australia, students are provided with nationally recognised training that provides them with everything they need to succeed in their chosen industry. Now, an RTO providers maintain consistent engagement with the industries that they offer the courses for, to make sure that the skills and knowledges that are taught are of a high quality and continue to be pertinent to future employers and the relevant industries involved. Now, the largest RTO in Australia would be TAFE. Now, TAFE understand that every student has individual needs, and if you're living with an injury, a disability, or a health condition, TAFE provides support for your studies. The decision to take on study is a pretty big one, and if you're ready, TAFE want to be there for you, helping you take advantage of every opportunity from enrolment through to graduation. And by letting TAFE know about your disability, health condition, or your existing learning needs at the time of your enrolment, TAFE will be able to help you get to the right supports and may even be able to help you save money on your fees. So of course, a disability consultant within the TAFE will need to verify your disability. So you do need to bring any documentation you have concerning your injury, your disability, or your medical condition to your first appointment. And some of the reasons to let TAFE know that you need support is that TAFE support services are free and confidential and available to both people who are enrolling, or if you're a prospective student. You may be eligible for an exemption when you pay nothing or a concession on your course fee. And you'll be getting the right support to achieve your study success right from the very start, and TAFE will respect your privacy. Now, if you're looking at university, then at the time of enrolment is the time to let them know that you need support. And additionally to this, it is allowing plenty of time to get your alternative format study materials and arrangements organised. And to do this, if it's actually possible, try to enrol at least one study term or 10 weeks in advance. And when you're enrolling, either online or with a student advisor, complete the disability support questions and nominate that you need assistance. And like an RTO, you will need to supply supporting evidence from a recognised practitioner and send them the form of your evidence to your uni support service. And the disability officers will work with you to decide what arrangements can be made to ensure that success with your studies. And it's really important to remember too that at all tertiary campuses, you can ask for a private one-on-one tour as many times as you need prior to starting in that campus so that you're really familiar and comfortable with your surroundings. Also, support transition teachers, staff just like Bronwyn, or your school advisors can arrange tours through campuses as well. Now, if you're looking to start a traineeship or an apprenticeship, the Disabled Australian Apprenticeship Wage Support payments are made to employers who employ an eligible Australian apprentice with a disability who finds it difficult to get an approved apprenticeship because of his or her disability. Now, they also currently employ an Australian apprentice who may have acquired a disability during their traineeship and need help as a result. You can get tutorial, interpreter, mentoring services are available to that apprentice who has been assessed as eligible for that DAWS program and need extra help with their off-the-job training. Now, if you have an NDIS plan and you talk to your planner, you might talk about the following programs if they're right for you. One could be individualised support, and this is the assistance of social and community participation, and is a funded support category that you may find in your plan, and it's under the core support section. This funding covers the support participants need to meet goals relating to participating in community, social or recreational activities. And under that would be something that Murray was talking about earlier. Other NDIS programs is the School Leaver Employment Support, or SLES. So the SLES program is an early intervention approach for participants in a student's last year of school. It supports the transition from school to employment. And these providers who deliver the SLES help their young people prepare, look and plan for employment. They provide meaningful individualised capacity building activities so young people can achieve their employment goals. As a part of managing a participant's employment barriers, SLES providers can support a participant's unique pathway to employment. They can help foster participation and goodwill in the local community and use their professional networks to engage and connect with employers. SLES funding builds a participant's ability and confidence to work with a Disability Employment Service, or a DES. The NDIS can fund SLES for up to 2 years depending on the participant's circumstances. Each person's SLES support will be different. However, the following skills can help participants get ready for employment: money handling skills, time management skills, communication skills, discovery activities, work experience, and learning how to take instructions at work, as well as travel skills. Now, from the 1st of July 2020, a new section came in under the NDIS funding called Employment Supports. And this might cover ADEs, which are your Australian Disability Enterprises, social enterprises, self-employment, micro businesses, and even family-run businesses. And this is a workplace assistance and is another capacity building support that enables a participant to successfully obtain or retain employment. This support is available to any working age participant, including students reaching working age. With the employment goals, this may include support such as exploring your work or what that would look like for a participant, build capacity foundation skills for work, manage complex barriers to obtaining and sustaining employment, undertake job circumstances, maybe even changing jobs. So transitioning maybe from an Australian disability enterprise into open employment, develop a career plan and other capacity building supports that are likely to lead to successful engagement with a disability employment service. So if you feel you need support to get into your chosen career, then a disability employment service may be that option. So a DES service helps people with a disability find work and keep a job. And through DES, people with a disability, injury or health condition may be able to receive assistance to prepare for, find and keep work. DES providers are a mix of large, medium and small for-profit and non-for-profit organisations and are experienced in supporting people with disability as well as providing assistance to employers to put in place practices and support that for that employee in the workplace. There are 2 types of services within the DES section, and one is the disability maintenance management service. That's for a job seeker with a disability, injury or health condition who need assistance to find a job and occasionally support in the workplace to keep a job. Employment support service, which provides assistance to job seekers with permanent disability to find a job and who need regular ongoing support in the workplace to keep a job. And then just lastly, I just want to quickly speak about job access, and it's a support you might like to access when you are working. Now, if you were logged in a little bit earlier to the webinar, you would have heard Daniel speak about job access. So just to reiterate what Daniel mentioned, Job Access is a comprehensive website and a telephone information service that provides service on disability employment related matters. It offers help to workplace solutions, not just for people with a disability, but also their employers. So on the website, you will have the telephone advice line. You have the Employment Assistance Fund. So that's your workplace modifications and supports, and an employer engagement service, which is the National Disability Recruitment Coordinator. There's a complaints resolution and referral service, and as well as the National Disability and Neglect Hotline. Thanks, Claire.
Fantastic. Now, we've got a few questions that have come in. We've got one aimed at the primary school level. So are there any benchmarking kits or reading schools assessment for Braille reading aimed at students in primary school? Claire, actually there was Andy. I don't know whether there we go.
Sorry. I'm not aware of any benchmark Braille test, but I don't have a primary Braille student at the moment. So I might, if that person can contact me, I'll put them in contact with someone who can answer that question. I do know that the YARC's been brailled, so they could possibly use the YARC as the benchmark test, but of course you'd have to have the, the specialist teacher, or probably somebody from one of the school counsellors that had experience in vision, I guess, to actually administer that test, because it's a standardised test that you need to understand how it works and how to administer it. So maybe we'll take that one on notice, and I'll get back to that person.
And if you find information, we can add it to the site as well, so everybody.
Sure.
So we're happy to do that. Now, I know that we've got either at the beginning of this process, before you've entered, a child has entered the school system, you've got parents at home thinking about their little 3 and 4 year olds, and you've got teachers maybe in kindy who are knowing that suddenly they've got a child coming. How do they engage? How does this process get kicked off? How does that first outreach happen?
Okay. Do you want me to answer that, or is Natalie?
Both, either. Go for it.
I'm happy for you to start, Claire.
Okay. Well, your child will probably already be in an early learning program, and hopefully at a preschool as well. So they'll be contacting, helping once you've chosen your school, and I'm sure they'll assist you with that, that'll be handed over to, they'll help that transition process and putting you in contact with the whatever school system you're going to go into will be be made aware of your student coming, and it'll work from there. So once we know what school you're going to the year before, we'll start preparing the school and the family for transition. But it should really come from where you already are at in the system at preschool or an early learning program.
And if you feel you've fallen into the gaps, just ring up the school and get them to find the pathway.
Absolutely, be in contact with your school straight away to say that you are, once you've at enrolment, you need to tell the school that your child has a vision impairment and start the process off there too. It should work better than that. If you haven't, it should work through the system a little bit better than that. But if you at enrolment, the school doesn't know that your child has a vision impairment, then let them know then, and then the supports can be put in place in all the systems, school systems, Catholic, independent, and DET.
Right. Now, the funding question. I know when Audrey was talking, it's clear that a lot of the transition to the workplace skills were explicitly called out as being NDIS supported even for a number of years. How about the in-school transition? Where does the funding from? Is this the school covers it, government funded, NDIS? How does that work?
You just cut out a little bit there. Did you say in-school transition or after?
Yeah, within school.
Within school.
Does the system cover the costs? Does the school, does NDIS, where does the money come from?
Bron, do you want to take that question?
Okay. The school will usually fund it through their ISTVs. They'll work closely with the itinerants as part of that transition process. I'm assuming you're talking sort of primary school to high school. Is that correct, Michael?
That'll do. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously there are ways for them behind the scenes to make sure that the environment's safe for the young person coming through into that new sector in the high school as well,
Excellent.
I'll add something to that. The schools are, NDIS doesn't apply to anything within education in schools. The schools provide access to the curriculum and everything that the child needs, the school provides it. You don't use the NDIS funding for education.
Right. Now we've got a couple of people who've got their hands up. I think Rajan, Laura, so do we want to unmute Rajan so we can have a question? Here we go. Rajan, are you unmuted? Can we hear you?
Sorry, it's a bit slow. Just try again.
Remember, this technology makes all of our lives easier.
Why don't we try Laura, just in case you stepped away for a minute and that's the problem.
And perhaps maybe Claire could stop sharing her screen if that's possible.
Laura, can we hear you? Here we go. Laura, you're there.
I didn't have a question.
Ha
unless it's the question I had when Murray was on, but it's been answered.
No problem.
But I can tell everyone what it was if they're interested.
I'd say post it up later and we'll put the answer up on the website.
I'm just trying Rajan again.
Yep. Okay, Rajan, I can see is muted.
I'm clicking unmute, but it doesn't seem to do anything. Was there another question you can go to for a sec?
No, I think we're good.
Sorry, Michael, I was just going to say, I hope my sound's okay now.
Perfect.
I was just going to add in, I saw that Kim Barber has actually posted just on the funding side of things. So the Department of Education during transition years, funding is allocated to increase the student's support time during those transition years. So the student would be allocated an extra hour or two on the transition times.
And I suppose the other question that should be asked is, are these transition services, is this like they form an intimate relationship with someone new who comes into the school? Is this more about supporting the supports that are already there with the student? So what does this look like as an engagement for the student in school?
As in vision support?
Yeah, vision support for transition services. So is this like another specialist who comes in and appears in the school, or would this be just providing support to people who are already there in the school? Usually
the current vision teacher that has a good relationship with the student, knows the student should be comfortable with their vision teacher. They will assist in the transition so that there's always a familiar person. And then I think with most systems and teams that over these transition times, if possible, from say a 6 till 7, consistency is key, and teams will work towards keeping the same vision teacher if possible. But due to staffing and different constraints, it's not always possible, but wherever they can, consistency is key with those familiar people in that transition time.
Fantastic.